In this video I want to show you an update to my Film Elements DCTL pack. I've added a few new tools, including the new Film Grain DCTL. It's designed to emulate the behavior of real analog film grain, directly inside DaVinci, using its native DCTL system. So let's get started. When we apply film grain using DaVinci Resolve's native tool, at first glance it looks fine. But once you compare it with a high-end third-party plugin, you start to notice a difference. With the native tool, the grain often feels like it's sitting on top of the image. Whereas with higher-end tools, the grain feels more integrated. It becomes part of the image itself. That's exactly what I wanted to achieve with my Film Grain DCTL. My goal was to build a realistic, film-like grain, and it's now ready for release. The Film Grain DCTL is designed to reproduce the optical and tonal behavior of real film. Each frame generates its own unique, non-repeating pattern, and the grain responds naturally to exposure, blending with the image instead of sitting on top. Balanced RGB correlation keeps the color cohesive. The pattern remains evenly distributed in all directions, and motion stays smooth and organic. The Film Grain DCTL is resolution aware. At default or higher grain sizes, the scale stays visually consistent across different resolutions. When working in higher resolutions like 4K, the algorithm renders finer grain structure at smaller size settings. You can download the latest version of the Film Elements DCTL pack from my website. It includes the new Film Grain DCTL. Try it and compare it to Resolve's native film grain and other third-party plugins. Here's a quick overview of the main controls. Grain amount slider controls the overall intensity of the film grain. Shadows and highlight slider adjust how grain behaves across the tonal range. Grain size changes the physical size of the film grain. Softness slightly blurs and rounds the grain structure. Saturation controls the chroma contribution of the grain. Dark granules controls the black point of the grain texture. Lower values deepen dark specks and make the grain more pronounced. Higher values soften them. And here you can select between multiple lock and working color spaces to ensure proper scene referred behavior. Seed generates a new randomized grain pattern. If you want to emulate both negative and print film grain, you can apply the Grain DCTL twice with different seed values. For negative grain, place the DCTL near the start of your node tree. Use a larger grain size and a lower grain amount to create a softer, more organic texture that feels baked into the image. Then to emulate print grain, apply a second DCTL near the end of your node tree, just before your display transform. Use a smaller grain size and a slightly higher grain amount to simulate the fine crisp grain that appears in a release print. You can also use a single grain pass. It's entirely up to your workflow and the look you're after. I've decided not to include presets for now. The idea is to give you full control. Use a reference image, adjust the sliders, and shape the grain until it feels right for your shot. It was important to me that the Film Grain DCTL performs efficiently. It runs smoothly in real time at 4K on a standard workstation. No high-end system required. Even with the second Grain DCTL added in another node, Playback remains perfectly smooth. That's it. You can find the download link in the description. Have fun exploring the tool and see you next time.